Well, wonderful, wonderful Saturday morning to you all. Listen, come in, come in. You do not want to miss this conversation. I want to ask you, whoever is on right now, to come in and greet us. Good morning, Sister Felicia. God bless you, my love. Listen, I want you to like and to share and to tag some people right now before our guest comes on, because this is going to be a great conversation, and it is particularly designed for Black women, women who look like you and me. Now, any others are welcome to join us, but I unapologetically invite all of our sisters to jump on right now so that you can be a part of this conversation. Let me just give you the backstory very quickly about the how Achiever Spotlight came to pass. Black women, in my opinion, are frequently underappreciated, undervalued, and definitely underpaid. And so, one of the things that I believe I'm called to do is to help, to come alongside, to be a supporter, to be an encourager, and to say, you go, girl, you are doing the darn thing, even if you're not getting the recognition that you deserve. So, our goal is to bring these women to the forefront. We have many sisters who are doing phenomenal things. They're not on Housewives, they're not in Hollywood, they're not on magazine covers, but they are phenomenal women nonetheless. And we want to be sure that you know as much about them as possible. And so we want you to know who they are. We want you to know what they do. And we want you, other Black women, to understand the difference that women who look like you and me are making on a daily basis. And ultimately, we pray that you will support them, use their services, and buy from them. Listen, nothing shady going on. These women are working hard. They present excellent products. They present excellent services. And so we want to be sure that you know about them and that you support them. And so I am very excited and grateful today to be able to present Leslie J. Sherrod. Listen, let me tell you a little bit about Leslie. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she is the author of 7 faith-based novels that speak to the hopes and dreams of diverse women. As both a writer and a licensed clinical social worker, Leslie tackles matters of social significance, including, listen, mental health. We know that's a real kind of sticky wicket for many in our community. But Leslie takes on these issues in her writing from not only from the perspective of an author, but from the perspective of a mental health professional. She deals with issues of pursuing purpose and spiritual growth. So she draws on raw emotions to bring messages of hope, help, and healing. Oh, listen, I have read personally several of her books, and I can tell you that in my opinion, she is a world class. Whoever your favorite authors are, this woman ranks right up there with them, in my opinion. So she lives in Baltimore, Maryland, with her husband and 3 children. And she wants you to look forward to her 8th novel. It's entitled Housebroken. She says it's a witty tale of a newlywed's disastrous first year of marriage, to be released in coming months. And so, without further ado, let's welcome Leslie Sherrod to the Achiever Spotlight. Good morning, Leslie.
Hi.
Good
Good
morning.
morning,
It
Pastor
is
Pat.
so great to see you. Listen, if you have any questions for Leslie as we go, just drop them in the chat. We'll deal with them, but we want to jump right in and take full advantage of the time that we have. Also, I want you to kind of cast your eye behind her, because she has several of her books behind her there. And I was saying to her earlier, I know that she and her husband, or her husband actually, is the artist behind the covers. And if you've ever seen them in person, even the book covers are a work of art. They are beautiful. Asia is popping one up on the screen right now. Secret Place, Like Sheep Gone Astray. I mean, they are beautiful. They're compelling. And so even the covers should draw you in and make you want to read these books. But Leslie, We just want to hear from you today. So let's start out by asking you the first question that I have is what inspired you to write? What made you know that you were such a great storyteller, or did you know?
It's interesting. Writing is just one of those things that has just been kind of foundational to who I am. And before I even jump into that, I just want to say thank you, Pastor Faye, for even
Oh, you're
having me.
welcome.
Every time I see your name somewhere, I just get excited because you have such a warm, wonderful spirit. So I just wanted to just thank you and honor
Oh,
you
you are
for
welcome. It's
letting
our
me be
honor.
here. I'm honored to be here. But yes, writing is one of those things. I can remember being in the second grade and having an assignment where we had to make like our own biography. Mind you, was just a paragraph and a picture. And I remember how excited I was at being able to put words on paper that meant something.
Okay.
And I don't know that I've ever seen it as separate from who I am. It's just one of those things I love to do.
Okay.
Whether it was writing poetry when I was in high school or short stories in college, it's just one of those things I've always loved to do.
So from second grade, what is that, 6 or 7 years old,
Mhm.
you really recognized or realized a passion for what I love the way you express that, putting words on paper that meant something. That's a powerful statement in and of itself, is that you recognized that words had
Mhm.
power. It meant something to you.
Mhm.
And whether it's the spoken word or the written word, words have such power. They shape our environment. they
Mhm.
they control, really, to a large degree, how we feel and how we show up in the world and how we treat other people. So it is a powerful, powerful thing to be able to put words to paper that
Mhm.
mean something. Don't forget that, people, that
Yeah.
that is a powerful, powerful statement. So I think you've actually answered the second question that I have, but I'll ask it anyway because it may be like a twofer. Does writing energize you or exhaust you, or both?
Whew, I will say both.
Yeah.
Absolutely both. I think people sometimes they think as a writer it's just all like roses and excitement and passion. But let me tell you, there have been days where I have had to write out of a dry place.
Yes.
There have been days where I have had to put down on paper things that did exhaust me.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the subject matter, and I try and balance between kind of serious things and some humorous things, and that's on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it is a lot to really put down thoughts and words and emotions, and even though these are fictional characters, I primarily write fiction. Um, to get into their minds and their stories and their emotions and their trauma, it can absolutely be exhausting.
Yeah. As a mental health professional, dealing with, and I want to delve into this a bit more, this whole business of dealing with emotion, because I part of my question is, what do you think, or do you think that people who don't feel emotion strongly can make effective writers? That's sort of the first part. And then secondly, as you develop your characters, and I have read several of your books, and let me just say that your characters are so real, I mean, so relatable in many ways, and their lives are not just like Harlequin romance, the that light, fluffy. I can remember being 12 or 13 years old. No shade to Harlequin, but again, at 12 or 13, that, or 10 or 11, that probably was as much emotion as I could handle. But
Mhm.
as a mature woman, a mature adult, you recognize that life is much more complex than
Mhm.
that. So as you develop your characters, so do you draw from your own emotional reposits and sort of pour that into the characters? I think that's just such an interesting angle. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure, absolutely. I can think of a few things to say about this. First thing I want to say is I hope and I believe that my evolution as a writer and as a mental health clinician and just as a woman and all the other titles is something that continually grows. So like the story that I wrote when I first started out 16 years ago would probably look different if I wrote it now.
Sure.
You know,
Sense.
just in terms
Yeah.
of where I am and how I'm thinking and how I'm experiencing the world. And that brings me to really kind of the primary point here. When you talk about writing from emotion, I think it's writing from awareness. I've been meditating a little on this idea of when we go back to Genesis, right? After the fall, what was the first word that God said to Adam and Eve after the fall? Where are you?
Where are you? Yeah.
And he wasn't asking them that for his benefit, but for ours.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
I've really been kind of on this idea, both as a writer, as a clinician, on the idea of really being aware, self-aware of what you're feeling, of what you've been through, of how you are interacting with the world. So as a writer, and for anyone who's also, you know, pursuing writing or thinking of writing, start with where are you? Because that's going to shape what comes out on the paper for you. What is it that you really believe? What is it that what are the messages that you are trying to put out in the world, whether it's through a fictional character or a memoir or a play or a screen, you know, anything? Where are you? Because no matter how you dress up a character, no matter what scene or setting you put them in, the pages are going to be a reflection of where you are and on some level. And it's good to have some awareness for yourself of whatever traumas you've been through, of whatever healing you're at or need to go through,
Right.
To help shape your story. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really, really good. And it's got my wheels really turning now that you're saying all of that. So as you develop a character, because here's the thing that I remember about reading your books is that even though, to your point, even though the characters are fictional, I drew knowledge for me from my own life. You know what? So I knew that because you clearly you write Christian fiction, but the evolution, the development, the traumas, the experiences, the mistakes and missteps, and the learnings of those characters as you develop them have real life application. Is that intentional?
So my prayer all along as a writer, and again, it's hard for me to separate writing from me. Like even when I was little, I didn't imagine that I would actually have a quote unquote part of a writing career, just like that's something I did. But to answer your question, I think the characters, they come out of either experience or observation. Again, tapping into awareness. So completely fictional. I do want to emphasize my characters are fictional, but I think they come from a place where, you know, you make observations, maybe you experience some things, you know, you tap into that. And my prayer all along is that the Lord works through. You know, I believe that God is so powerful enough that even if you're not typing out a specific Bible verse or you know, saying something that sounds so churchy or whatever, that he can break through all of that and minister to people right where they are.
Absolutely.
And so that is my prayer with every book, with every character, is that wherever someone is, that they will get whatever is supposed to be helpful for them in that moment.
That's great. That's great. Listen, if you have any questions for Leslie, don't fail to go ahead and put them in the chat. We want to be sure that this is as interactive as you want it to be. She is here. Tap in. I want you to talk a couple of things. One is if you could tell your younger self, you published your first book 16 years ago, I think you said, right? About that.
Oh, I can't do math now. It came out in 2013.
All right. So this is 2022. So that's 9 years.
Wait a minute. That's not right. I have
No,
lost track.
I know it's been longer.
Wait a minute.
Than
I'm
9
going to
years.
tell you because it's been a while.
Okay.
This came out in 2006. So I was
Okay.
completely wrong. And by the way, this is the one cover that my husband did not design. My
Okay.
first book, but all the other ones, I did want to make that correction.
Okay.
Just to
All
say,
right.
but yeah, this
So
came out in
so that is
2006.
16 years then.
Okay, I'll learn to trust my math here.
It is absolutely 16 years. So one thing, if you could tell your younger self from a writing perspective, anything, what would you say to the Leslie of 16 years ago that the Leslie today knows that she didn't know 16 years ago about the creative process, about
Yes.
writing, about what is involved in all of it? Because we had this conversation a little bit earlier yesterday, just as we were touching base. But one of the things, and I pray that there are some moms that have daughters and granddaughters and nieces and sisters, or whatever the case may be, on, because one of the things that I think we have to acknowledge is that anything that is worth having, anything that is excellent, is a journey. You know, the overnight success is a myth, I think. One. And secondly, when you are striving toward your purpose in life, it does not come without hiccups and bumps and blood, sweat, and tears. So talk to us about that.
Yes, everything you just said and then some. You know, I could write an entire book to myself about this journey.
Yeah.
You know, what I would tell myself 16 years ago, a few things. Number one, to your point, time. Everything is not instant. It is a journey. And everything is not easy, right? Sometimes we think, especially if we believe God has called us to do something,
Right.
we're expecting it to be easy and instant. No. Nope, 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 nope.
No, and no.
No. It might take some years. It might take some tears, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a process, because it's not just about the end result. It is about the journey
Yes.
that we are going through day by day. And so I think the biggest message I probably would tell myself back then is not to get stuck on discouragement. It is very easy to become discouraged. If there's anyone out here listening who is a writer at any level, and you are a writer, if you are putting pen on the paper, don't wait for someone to validate you and tell you that you are a writer. Accept
That's
and
good.
Embrace that you are a writer right now. And also know that you don't want to get stuck at discouragement. There might be some rejections. Everybody is not going to like your book. There might be some critics. There might be some people who don't show up for your events or what have you that you were expecting to show up. There might be some people as you're working in publishing industry that may not always feel like they have your back the way that you thought. You might be disappointed. However, what you do is keep your eyes on the focus of why you are doing this, why you were called. It's not about you. It's bigger than you. And if God has called you to be a minister of writing in the writing world, that's what he's called you to do. Whether there are 2 readers for you or 2,000 or 2 million, your words, your voice, they are important. So, you know, I'm encouraging you just like I'm encouraging me. You can't get stuck at discouragement. You cannot get stuck there. If that's where you've been stuck, if it's been 5 years have passed and you've been stuck there, it is okay. Today is new. There's new mercy today. Get out, get back to writing. It is not too late.
That is so, so true. And I was telling Leslie yesterday, I remember when I moved to Florida, just a little aside very quickly, right after my divorce, and this has been 18 years, and I can remember sitting in my house, and the Lord gave me sort of a quick vision of what we're doing today. But I didn't know that at that time. But this whole initiative of coming alongside and supporting Black women and making sure that we connect and support and care and nurture and love each other was always a part of who I was created to be. And I've tried so many times to launch it and been discouraged, but never gave up, because I know that God called me to it. And now here I am 18 years later And I finally kind of see what God showed me 18 years ago. So to your point, if you are called to do something, then do it, but stay with it. Okay, I see something that said all emojis are showing angry faces. I don't know what's happening, but we're not angry. I don't know what that is, but we're very happy. So I don't know what's happening there. Okay, thank you. Just do it. Keep going. Keep going. Don't quit. You won't have the same level of energy every day, but if you are called to do it, God will sustain you. The other thing that I want to say is that, and Leslie, I'd like your comment on this. I can remember at a time when I was working tirelessly in this ministry, trying to show. I had Victorious Life Ministries on my shoulders. Hear me, on my shoulders. And I was trying to carry it, and I was going to do it, and I was going to do it, and I was going to do it because God had called me. But here is what I want to say to someone. The Lord spoke to me very clearly and said, Faye, you can't work hard enough to make it work. Mm-hmm. It is not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Now, does that mean you sit back and look spiritual and don't work? No. But you put the weight of the assignment on him, not on you. It's too heavy. Leslie, what do you think about that?
Absolutely agree. I mean, I think we will get exhausted if we think we are responsible for the outcome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to a degree, you know, like you said, you do your work, but if you believe that God has called you to do something, that means you're also believing that he is called, that he is the one fashioning what's going to happen with it.
Right.
So if it's possible for you to keep that in mind, to take that burden off of you, it is just your job to do the work.
Right.
It is his job to produce, you know, what happens from it.
The outcomes belong to him.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And going back to the idea that it may not be instant, you know,
I don't
you might
know.
not even see the immediate fruit.
Yeah. But again, you don't plant a seed and a full garden spring up the next day.
Right.
So that concept of planting and watering and nurturing and then the growth is absolutely imperative. And that leads me to another question about the whole watering and nurturing and all of that. Have you had that along the way? People that encourage and say, keep going. You know, that is so needed. We need that so desperately. Well, let me be quiet. Let me let you answer the question because I just.
Yes. Connection, relationship is vital. I mean, even as a Christian, Jesus says you have to be connected to the vine, right?
Right.
As believers, you want to be connected to each other. And as a writer, you need to be connected to some kind of writing community. And that community, whether it is a formal, you know, like group, or if it's just a couple of friends, people who understand what it's like to kind of be in that isolated world of having your laptop up in the middle of the night, second guessing yourself, going through editing, all of those things. But also people who can pour into you. And I absolutely, you know, I'm probably kind of I consider myself a pretty low profile person. Like I'm not necessarily out there, and you know, I'm a little bit more of an introvert. But I absolutely have a couple of core people that we can talk, we can laugh, we can cry, we pray together, we talk about our story ideas. And if you are writing, if you're an aspiring writer, if you're an established writer, you want to have those types of connections in your life for that encouragement, because it is a journey, y'all. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a journey. Do not do this alone. Okay. Don't do it alone. Yeah. Find your people.
I would just say whatever you're about, writing, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you said something that's so powerful, and that is connections are essential if you're going to be able to maintain over the long haul. I don't think you can do it alone. We weren't meant to be alone. I don't think we weren't meant to be an island. God created us with a need for other people and for connections. And so I really pray that whatever your calling is, that you will make sure that you connect to other people. Let me ask you this, just in terms of, because we're talking about the journey, what does literary success look like to you?
Mm. For me, personally, because I view this as ministry, um, the most impactful thing that I can hear as a writer is when someone reaches out and tells me how a book I've written has impacted them in a positive way. That to me,
Mhm.
makes the late night hours, the questions, the doubt, all of those things kind of come together, is to see the fruit of it. To see
Yeah.
the fruit of it in terms of people being not only entertained but encouraged.
Yes.
Um, if I hear that from someone, that right there is like that just makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Let me ask you now, you have a very demanding job, career,
Mhm.
that you do on a daily basis. You are a wife every day. You
Yes.
are a mom every day. You are a friend, a daughter, or I mean, like most women, we wear all these roles and all these hats every day. So when you are in the throes of birthing a project, birthing another book, how do you juggle all of that, and what does that look like in your life on a daily basis when you're trying to, and and I'm not a writer, but I mean I've seen people and read about people, and I mean when the juices are flowing and it's flowing, you need to get it down, you need to
Mhm.
get it out because you don't want to lose it, but maybe you have a kid going one place or husband meetings. How do you manage all of that?
Listen, if there's anyone out here listening that has the secrets on how to manage it all, please email me immediately. I think I have spent so much time in the past trying to figure out the perfect way to juggle everything, right? Um, Part of my journey has been recognizing that I can't do it all, right? Um, I have to prioritize. I have to accept sometimes good enough in with some things. And I also have to accept who I am and how I function as a person. So prime example, I am not a morning person, right?
Okay.
And you read about people getting up early in the morning to start writing their novel. That's not me. I tried to be, it didn't work out. I know for myself, I write best, believe it or not, in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Between like 9 a.m. Now, maybe 10 years ago, I could go later. It's come back a little bit. But like in the middle of the night, like that's when I feel the most creative. So
Okay.
rather than fight that, I try and work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Absolutely can be exhausting. But then that's where you also recognize your community. I am grateful to God. I have an extremely supportive husband who, from day one of this journey, has been helpful. So he helps me out, he encourages me, and we balance each other out with things. So that definitely has helped. But really, yes, there's a lot. I've had days and weeks, years, I'll be honest, where I paused, one hat, had to take it off for a moment, put another
Mm-hmm.
hat on, and
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. But it's definitely, the two biggest things. Well, few biggest things, like I was saying, is accepting who you are and how you function, prioritizing what needs to get done, and accepting that everything may not be tip top perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you do what you can, the best way you can do it, and like we've been saying all along, trust God with the results.
Yeah. Isn't that just the way of life, though? And
Mhm.
I think that this misperception, and again, I think a lot of oftentimes we're influenced possibly by what we see on television, in movies, and what have you. But the reality is, in real life, there is no superwoman.
Mm.
She's a figment of someone's imagination. And so I think being able to prioritize and to and that those priorities may shift from day to
Yes, they
day.
will. They definitely will.
Yeah, so allowing yourself the room to be human, this
Mhm.
perfectionist complex is toxic. It will rob you of your joy, of your energy, of your it will strip you of your self-confidence because you feel like once you get on that path, you feel like you're failing at everything.
Right.
And that's where the enemy just pours it on stronger and stronger. And so, to everyone that is listening to us today, hear what this woman of God, this writer is saying. There is no perfect world, that we're all doing the best we can with what we have in
Mhm.
the time that we're in, and yet you still accomplish all. You're getting ready to publish what, your eighth or ninth?
Yep, this will be number 8.
Number 8. And
Yes.
in the process of all of that, you've raised or raising children,
Mhm.
working, being a wife, being a daughter, being a friend. So there is, in the process of all of the demands that all of us face on our lives every day, excellence and accomplishment is still possible. That, I think that's a real important message that I'm hearing from you, Leslie,
Mhm.
because to be able to write 8 books and do have babies and raise them and be a wife, that is no small thing. And so you've done it well, and yet your life has happened. And
Mhm.
that's the reality of all of us. Life is happening to
Mhm.
us every day. I said to some people a few weeks ago, you can take a day off work, you can cancel a hair appointment, you don't have to go get a pedicure, but you can't take a day off from your life. Your life shows up every day,
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
right?
Yeah,
It
and
shows up.
I would just even add to that, just remembering where your strength comes from.
Yes,
That this isn't about, it's not even about us. It's about him.
right.
And he is there to encourage us, strengthen us, and really take care of us.
That is so true. All right. So let me ask you this. What was your favorite childhood book? What was the first thing you really learned to read?
My favorite childhood book. Um, I remember reading a book. I want to say, was it Words by Heart? Um, I want to make sure I'm remembering this, but it was kind of like a historical fiction that really, it just drew me in, and I think it was because of it might have been one of the first books that I read as a young person that had people, the characters looked like me,
Yeah,
and it had our history, and I remember that because it just was like, wow, our stories, they matter. And you don't always hear that, especially in the world we live in. And I just remember as a child how impactful that was for me, just to see. And I used to read I mean, I was one of those kids that was at the library checking out books. I read a lot of mysteries. As I got older, just a lot of different things. I read especially mysteries and historical fiction were like my two areas.
okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah,
but
sure, sure. So, how long does it take you on average? And I'm sure it varies from project to project, book to book. But if you had to sort of give an average, how long does it take you to write a book?
whew, it is actually a broad range.
Yeah.
Like for example, my first book I think took me 3 years. And then I went through a phase where I was writing one book a year. The book that I'm about to put out now, I probably started 10 years ago and have just
Okay.
been picking at it. So
Okay.
it really varies. The difference for me is when I have a deadline.
Okay.
if
Okay.
I if I have a deadline, it forces me to sit down, buckle down, and just get it done. If
Right.
I don't have a deadline, I'm just kind of meandering along. So for me, I need a deadline. If I have a deadline, I could probably get a book done within about 6 or 7 months.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's impressive.
Well, at least the first draft. Let me make that distinction.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you were to give counsel to an aspiring author,
Mhm.
um, that had to do with, I guess, a couple of areas: the creative process, one,
Mhm.
and looking at publishing and agents. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
wanting to now drill to the technical
Sure, sure.
stuff. Could you talk about that?
Absolutely. I'm going to start with something I said earlier, self-awareness, right?
Okay.
And I mean that in every sense of the word, not only as you are creating your story, but also as you are approaching how you want your story to go out there. The reason being that there are so many avenues now to getting your work out there, whether you go through the traditional avenue of querying publishers or, querying agents, whether you are uploading something to Kindle or using, Ingram Sparks. I think that's the website to get your work out there. You want to be self-aware enough that you know what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, what knowledge you want to gain. Because there are a lot of steps to getting a book. Like for as exhausting as the writing process is, that's just the beginning.
Oh,
Yes, there's a whole other side to getting your words out in print. So you want to be aware of, how much work do you want to do? Do you want to have someone else helping you? So I would say start with that awareness and do your research so that you know what your options are to
okay.
move forward.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So how can people where can people get your books? I want to challenge everybody. There have been like over 20 something of you on here today, and there will be many more who see this, because it will remain on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So there will be many others who see it. So I want to say this right now. All of you, I want you to buy a Leslie Sherrod book. It will benefit you. I'm serious, because to her point, many of us have grown up reading many authors, but most of us, or many of us, have not grown up reading authors who look like us. And like many other things, we have bought the lie that if others do it, it's better.
Mhm.
That is a lie from the pit of hell, and we're going to call it what it is. This woman is a world-class author. You might not know who she is. That's not because she's not good. And see, that's the other thing that I want to kill this demon is that, somehow our work is inferior. No, it's just that we don't have the funding many times to market what we do, to get the exposure like others. It's not because what we do is not as good, is not the quality. So I want to challenge you, each of you, under the sound of my voice today or whenever, make the effort to buy at least one. And I promise you that if you like good fiction, all I need you to do is buy one, and you'll go back. It's sort of like a good restaurant. All you have to do is get one meal, and nobody has to invite you back. You'll go back on your own. So I'm asking you to buy at least one, and I'm not worried about the rest. So, Leslie, where can people get your books?
Yes, thank you so much for that. I do have a website. I believe it's going across the screen at lesliejsherrod.com. I have a link within that website to an online bookstore where I would be happy to sign a book for you or your
All
loved one if
right.
you're doing it as a gift. Where I absolutely can send you a book in the mail. The books are available in many places as well too. Everyone is familiar with Amazon.
Right.
I believe Walmart carries some of them online. Some of the titles are older, so it might be a little bit harder to find, but I do have a limited number, at least of the older ones on my website, but a lot of the newer ones too. So my
So listen,
website,
go to lesliejsherrod.com.
yes,
And why not have an autographed copy? You don't
yes.
know. That autograph is going to be worth something one of these days, so don't sleep on it. Go to lesliejsherrod.com today while it's fresh in your mind and order one of her books. Order it and give it to your daughter, your granddaughter for Christmas. Save it and say, this is a Black woman that I had the privilege of being a part of a conversation with her. And this is who she is. So you have a personal connection now to the author. So you can go to lesliejsherrod.com and order your books today. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but I don't want us to lose that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Please go to my website. Not only go there and buy a book, but join the mailing list so that you can be
Yes.
among the first to know when my next book does come out, which I'm really excited about as well too.
Housebroken, I think is the
Yes,
title.
Housebroken. Yes. I
Housebroken.
had to do something a little light. Like I said, I balance out the heavy with the light. So
So listen, don't fail to do that today. All right. Any closing thoughts for us today, Leslie? You've talked to us about aspiring authors, but just from a perspective of a woman who has persevered, tell us something about that.
don't give up. Wherever you are in life, no matter what is going on, the situation is not impossible. You are still here. Let your story be told. It will minister to others, and don't give up. You are loved, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you matter.
Amen. Amen. Listen, I appreciate every one of you for being here today. I know that this has blessed you. We actually have a few of Leslie's books at a Better Life bookstore at our church. So you Hope Fellowship people, just come on over to the bookstore and check them out. You can check out the covers and all of that. They are works of art. I'm telling you, you would almost want to take the covers off and frame them. And I'm serious. That's how beautifully done they are. And I'm just so proud of this young couple. It's so funny. Just a quick backstory. We've got about 3 minutes and then we're going to be done. But I think I reached out to, I'm one of these people that if I see somebody doing something, I don't know any strangers. If I see somebody doing something that I admire, all they can tell me is no. So I'll just reach out to them and say, I love what you're doing. Can we connect? Da, 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 da. And I think I stumbled across Leslie like online someplace, and we invited her here to Palm Coast. She did a book signing at my old church, and come to find out, little did I know, I already knew her mother-in-law. It's such a small world. I couldn't believe it that her mother-in-law, Laverne Addison, and I, who lived here in Palm Coast, went to the same church. And also it's interesting how that connection came about. But Leslie is a genuine person, a real Black woman who is doing great things. And I just want all of us to tap in to these real people who are doing extraordinary things. So Leslie, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. You have blessed us, you have encouraged us, you have helped us, and we are so proud of you and your husband for the great work that you are doing and for the example that you're setting for others to put your shoulder to the wheel and make something great happen. So God bless you. Thank you so much for being just a wonderful author and a great role model to many. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Pastor Faye. I am so honored and grateful that I've been able to sit and chat with you today. God bless you, and thank you so much for your words.
Thank you. All right. So listen, stay tuned. There is more. There is more that is coming. There's some great people that you don't even have a clue that are going to be on Achiever Spotlight. We have some scheduled already. We're in the process of scheduling others. I'm going to try to nail my sister, my biological sister, down. She doesn't know it. I hope she's listening. But I'm praying that I'll be able to nail her down to talk about her 40 plus years in aviation. She was an air traffic controller years ago when Black women really were not in that industry. And even today in her 70s plus, because of her expertise, she is still in demand. She's tried to retire. They keep calling her back. She's in Philadelphia right now training and running a whole division in her 70s of air training, air traffic controllers. So listen, excellence has no age. Remember that. As Leslie said, you are valued, you are loved, you matter. So come back, stay tuned for more Achiever Spotlight. Until next time, God bless you.
Thanks.
All right, good job, Leslie.